it's not a matter of if the Fed will ever cut rates and start printing money again. It's a matter of when. And so that's where, and I agree, once that happens, then and listen, things may be so bad in the economy, maybe stocks don't react amazingly well in that situation early on, but I do think Bitcoin starts that big move. The next bull cycle for me probably starts when they do that. And be interesting to see if that's around the halving too, right?
Pro trader Gareth Soloway offers a micro outlook on Bitcoin and the recent stock market. Bitcoin's price broke below its lower range of a widely watched technical indicator on Monday, a day before the Federal Reserve began its latest two-day monetary policy meeting. Last week, Bitcoin has repeatedly tested crucial short-term support in the mid-$29,000, and the bulls have managed to hold their ground, at least for now. According to Coinmetrics, Bitcoin was last lower by more than 3% at $29,121.60. Earlier, it sank as low as $28,995.02, its lowest level in more than a month. According to Gareth Soloway, the current decline in Bitcoin is a direct consequence of the formidable resistance channel that has proven difficult to break out of. Irrespective of the rationale behind the price move on July 24th, Bitcoin bears could not dampen investor optimism, resulting in higher odds of a recovery above $30,000 in the short term. As per Soloway analysis, the connection between the stock market and Bitcoin reveals that altcoin money has played a significant role in supporting the value of Bitcoin. Cryptocurrencies showed a sluggish performance, diverging from major U.S. equity indexes, which saw gains. The tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite and the S&P 500, which has a substantial technology component, edged up 0.1% and 0.4%, respectively. Despite the stock market's impressive surges, exemplified by companies like Nvidia making new all-time highs, Bitcoin has not experienced a corresponding breakout. Soloway suggests that if the stock market declines by 10, 15, or 20%, it's plausible for Bitcoin to fall below 15.7. This is due to the smaller decrease of about $13,000 to $14,000 needed, compared to the previous substantial drop from 69 to 15. Here are a few glimpses from the discussion that we'd like to show you. Before we proceed, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for more updates.
Bitcoin fall, beautiful little drop. We're actually breaking the 29,000 level as we speak. Take a look at this, guys. Now, one thing I've talked about, and I'll throw it to you in a second, Ben, is that we've talked about how this channel was insanely hard to break out of. And again, a lot of people don't understand why it's such big resistance. And I want to just show you here, folks. If you go back to the beginning of the bull market, right? So we were already trading up here, and we had this big move to about the 42,000 level, and we retraced right there. And it stalled, and then it rallied to 65,000. Then we came down 3 full times, 1, 2, 3, and we rallied to 69,000. And then we kind of came down, eventually consolidating right here and breaking down. And that's why this level is such a major technical resistance, because that was the buyer level back then. That was where everyone bought. So once we broke, it's now where everyone that bought in here is actually selling, right? They're like, oh my goodness, I got back to break even. I'm going to unload. In addition, it also has the aspect of being a technical level that I see. And so I've shorted multiple times into this level, as I'm sure many hundreds, if not thousands, of other technical traders have. So here we are breaking down, trading right around 29,000. And you could see how we kept on getting rejected. Even when closing above, you had a reversal candle. This is a topping tail. So topping tails are powerful. This was a green candle. This is called a reversal candle in technical analysis. And then we were hugging this lower level and finally the break point. So I wouldn't say that we're definitely heading straight down, but I think Ben and I would both agree that there's probably some weakness in Bitcoin coming in. We were just talking about it on the Spaces, Ben. In terms of the market coming down and potentially making a lower low down here, to me, it's honestly, I've become more convinced that that's going to happen based on what's been happening in the stock market relative to Bitcoin. And I think you put it perfectly, is that altcoin money has really been what's been propping Bitcoin up, right? Bitcoin alts are going lower. Bitcoin has been the recipient of a lot of that money, and it's been grinding higher. You haven't really seen the Nasdaq's been making insane moves to the upside. Nvidia stock, I mean, take a look at this chart on Nvidia here. this incredible move, right? We made huge new all-time highs on Nvidia. Now, granted, it was the AI story, but it was drawing liquidity away. But there was no recipient. You didn't see Bitcoin breaking out when Nvidia had this move to the upside. So that's a concern, and the concern becomes that if the stock market, let's just say we pull back to this gap fill on a technical basis, this is probably where we're headed back to on Nvidia. So if we drop, that would be about 30% on Nvidia. Where is Bitcoin at that point? Where is the altcoin market? And I would be scared to think about where the altcoin market is at that point. So I do think that if the stock market is to drop 10, 15, 20% from where it is, it's hard to believe that Bitcoin, if Bitcoin fell, so let's do this and think about this, right? So Bitcoin was at 69 and the stock market was at all-time highs. Bitcoin dropped to 15.7, then bounced 100%. The NASDAQ has rallied massively, right? And so if we fall, let's just say we fall back to these October lows on the NASDAQ, to me, why wouldn't Bitcoin be below 15.7 when it only has to drop about $13,000, $14,000 versus dropping from 69 to 15 the last time we dipped down to these lows?
The Federal Reserve is likely not done raising the cost of money to tame inflation. So, interest rates may remain top of mind for investors. The S&P 500 had a strong finish in the final week of June, surging nearly 2.4%, more than recovering from the previous week's 1.4% decline. It closed at 4450, achieving its highest weekly close since April 8, 2022. Additionally, last week, it added another 0.6% and reached 4,578, reaching levels not seen since April 2022. The index had already exceeded many Wall Street firms' year-end forecasts of 4,200 to 4,300 earlier in June. According to Gareth Soloway, the S&P 500 has two potential scenarios: stalling at current levels and rolling over, or following a Bitcoin-like pattern with a significant dip, a slightly higher high, and then rolling over.
So you had the pop in the Fed balance sheet when the financial crisis, the banks crisis. But if you look here, right, we're now making new lows. And so I think you talked about it. We've talked about it almost in every no-shill zone for the last maybe 3 or 4 weeks. But there's the jaws opening up, right, where you have less and less liquidity in the system, but the stock market has continued higher. And the reason that impacts crypto is because it's all liquidity, right? It doesn't matter if it's a stock, if it's a commodity, or if it's a crypto. It all has to do with how much money is in the system. How much money do people have to actually buy things with? There's two scenarios for the S&P. One is we stall here and we roll over, which would mirror the 1929 to 1930 period. It would mirror the dot-com period, as well as 2008, 2009. The other scenario could be the Bitcoin scenario, right, where Bitcoin had that big middle dip and we made a slightly higher high before rolling over. And again, in both cases, there's issues for the market. One just happens to be much more overbought, which usually means the downside will be much more dramatic. What I do think, though, is that at minimum, we're going well below those October lows. And I think the two levels that I would watch closely is this pre-COVID line right here. And this is kind of like the mild recession scenario where inflation is not really that high, but we're just kind of stuck in this mild recession because the Fed can't print us out. And that would be right around this 32.65 level, right? If you get in a bigger issue, there's a secondary line here, which we can connect here, which is around that 3,100 level. So these would be the two first areas. And notice how they're converging, which means it would be major technical support in this, let's say, 33 to 3,100 level on the S&P. If we want to talk about the catastrophe side of things, then you're talking about revisiting this area down here, which I hope for all of our sakes that does not happen, because if that were to happen, I would hate to see where the economy is at that point.
Bitcoin's price dropped below $30,000 on July 25th, 2023, after breaking below its lower range of a widely watched technical indicator. This is the lowest level Bitcoin has been since June 14th, 2023. Despite the recent decline in Bitcoin's price, some analysts believe that it is still a good investment in the long term. They point to the fact that Bitcoin has always recovered from previous declines and that it has the potential to continue to grow in value in the future. Ultimately, the future price of Bitcoin is uncertain. Do you believe the resistance level at 29,000 will continue to challenge Bitcoin's upward movement? We encourage you to share your views in the comments section. If you found this content informative, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for the most up-to-date news and videos. Thanks for joining us.